when I'm in that mental space and they're laying on my table and I open myself as a vessel, my body goes to what he worked on. And I always say, don't tell me what your perception is that you want fixed, because energy goes where it needs to. And somebody might say, well, my shoulder hurts, but it stems from an injury they had on their toe they didn't even know about, so I don't want to get in my head what you want me to do. I just want to let the energy flow. Welcome to Holy Chit. I am your host, Christy Austin, here to remind you that you are whole. And Chit, a Sanskrit word for pure consciousness. We are here to raise the collective consciousness, and here to help us do that today is Kathy Banegas. I'm so excited to have her. She is author, writer of the book, which I love, Practical Crystals. Those of you who know me know that I cannot get enough crystals. I have to ask her, Kathy, what is this crystal? Do you know? It's blue.
It's beautiful. Is it a blue apatite?
I think it's apatite. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I just want to say something because I'm like, Kathy will know, and I forgot because I forget most of my crystals, but I got to wear all my crystals today for Kathy. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you please, did I pronounce your last name right?
You pronounce it perfectly.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Now, Kathy, this is our first time actual meeting. Actually, yes. We talked on social media, and I actually met you through one of my longest friends in the world, my very first friend ever in kindergarten. And we're going to have her on next week. So that she does something kind of very unique. And when she connected you to me, I was like, oh, she's like an expert in crystals and has all this fabulous energy. And what I really want to get into is what started you on this journey. If you don't mind sharing maybe your healing journey with us.
Yeah, of course. And I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, for having me. And I was so excited to meet you. And yes, we were introduced through Kelly, our mutual friend. Right. And I've actually only known her for about a year now, and she's amazing. So, and she talked all about you. She said how amazing you are and how you're her longest friend from kindergarten. So I have been stalking your page and I just love everything you do. So I'm very excited to be on today. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kathy.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and actually how I got started with crystals. It has just been one of those things where I didn't expect my life to go in this direction, but it really has. And so back in 2014, I actually lost my mom to breast cancer. And that was a very life-changing experience for me, or just everything just kind of got turned upside down in my life, because I'm the oldest child of two, and my parents were married for, my whole life. And, my mom was my best friend. And so the years leading up to her passing away were very difficult for me because I pretty much was like her caretaker, and I would be the one to take her to some doctor's appointments and things like that. And so just kind of watching her go through that and kind of leading up to passing away, just so slowly, watching a family member or a loved one, especially somebody that you're very close to, just kind of passing away in that way is very difficult. Any way is difficult, but really I felt like I had spent so many years just caring for her and just kind of slowly, progressively get worse. And so once she had passed away in 2014, early that year, After that, I just fell through like a really deep depression. Like I just went through this dark time of my life. I look back on it and I'm thankful that it happened in a sense because it has led me here. But in the beginning, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was going through this dark time. Really what changed my life was I was driving down the freeway one day from work and I was coming home and I remember thinking I probably should just crash my car on the side of the freeway here, and I should just end this. And so immediately I thought to myself, this isn't me, like these are not my thoughts. Like I was actually a newlywed. I had just reconnected with my high school friend of, from 10 years ago. And we had just reconnected and we had just gotten married. And I had two kids at the time. And I remember thinking, these are not my thoughts, this is not me. I love my life. I love my kids. I don't want to do this to myself, but something that is in me, this sadness is leading me to think this way. So I remember thinking I have to do something. I have to find some kind of help, just I got to do something about it. So I remember looking up like, depression, anxiety, all of that. I had insomnia too. I couldn't sleep. I would go in these like days where I couldn't get out of bed. So I remember thinking like I have to find help. So the first thing I found was obviously a doctor, right? And I remember thinking like I'll just go to counseling. And I went and I saw a psychologist, and my psychologist, referred me to go back to my PCP and get medication. And it was this long, time of like trying one medication, and this medication didn't work for me. I was still sad, and another medication, and I still felt sad. And I remember finally, like one of the very last that I tried was I was sitting at work and I literally was just staring at my computer, like without being able to move. And I just felt numb. I just felt completely numb. I wasn't feeling anymore. So I remember just again thinking there has to be something else. Like I have to find something else that can make me feel like me again. And so I was like holistic ways of healing, and that's what I typed into Google. And one of the very first things that came up was crystals. And I remember thinking like, well, these are just rocks. Like, what is this going to do to help me? So I was like, okay, maybe something to think about, right? And you know how sometimes you do a little research and it just kind of stays in your mind, but there's nothing you really do about it. You just kind of go on with your day. So that was kind of what happened at that time. And maybe a few weeks later, I was driving home again from work because I used to have a very long commute. And I happened to look to my side and I saw it was like one of those movie moments where there's a ray of sunshine just kind of going down into a window and it's like making everything shine. And it was a smoke shop of all places. And they had crystals in their window. And so the rays of sunshine were like shining right on the quartz. So I remember thinking like, oh, crystals, and then that thought of like, oh, they can help you came back into my mind. And so I remember like I did like a whole turn and went into this driveway and went inside and I was just like, how much for those, And then they were, I don't know how much it was, like $10, $15 or something. And I bought one, I took it home, I put it in my living room and I left it there. I didn't think anything of it, didn't know what to do with it. And I just remember just a few more weeks passed by and it happened to be that those few weeks I felt a little better. So I started thinking maybe it could be this crystal that's here, in my living room. So, why not? Why not give it like a little bit more research, a little bit more time? So that's what I did. I actually went and I researched some more. And I remember finding amethyst for sleeping. And at that time I couldn't sleep at that time without medications. Like I had to take a bunch of stuff to be able to sleep through the night. And also my husband, he's a combat veteran. And he and I actually reconnected because I found him on Facebook And he and I were both going through a lot of stuff. But at that time, he was posting a lot about his recovery, like just his PTSD, and he had lost a lot of friends and things like that. And so I remember when I started doing my research on crystals for myself, I even started researching for him and, looking up crystals for PTSD. I'm like, I might as well try it on him too, right? So that's what I did. I ended up just like shopping for beads. I made bracelets, and I started giving them to him, and he was pretty open to it as well. And yeah, a few weeks later, honestly, I have to tell you, it was very obvious for us that something was different, something had changed, and we felt that it had to be the crystals. And so, I started getting more and more. I would like look up metaphysical shops in my area, and we would just like go shopping. And we were so excited, like just to find something that was really helping us without really doing much.
I love that your husband was open to that also, because a lot of
Yeah.
um, just think that's some kind of witchcraft stuff. So the fact that he was open, to
Right,
trying
right.
that out. And I love that you mentioned at first you thought it's just a rock, because I think so many people do. They think that a crystal's just a rock. It's nothing.
Right.
What people don't realize is that what we are made of, the chemicals within us that consist of what we are, is the same as a crystal. So we are actually crystals. So if you
Yes.
put it that way, these are live energy, just like we are. So they do have the power to heal and transmute. And why do you think crystals are in all the computers and phones we have in technology? Because they're so powerful. Crystals are powerful. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, well, I just thought it was a rock. No, it's not just a rock.
Yeah.
It's
And a lot of people see crystals as like the placebo effect, right? They're like, oh, it's just in your mind. You're the one creating this, and so most people, when they hear us say, or when they hear you and I believe in the fact that crystals can do something to heal you, people always discredit it. The people that don't believe in it, they always say like, oh, it's just a placebo effect, or it's not real. But I love that you mentioned even like the quartz watch, right? Like, why has that been used in watches for so long? It's because when you give it an electrical charge, it'll give it back. The quartz actually bounces that energy back, like just continuously, doesn't miss that beat, right? And so that's how we get the seconds. And quartz watches have been around for a long time, so I'm happy that you brought that up. It's true. Another thing I always say too is the reason why we're attracted to certain crystals is because, like you said, we're also made up of crystal, right? And so I always feel that when you look at a crystal, let's say you go to a shop and you see one, right, that you can't stop thinking about, or let's say it's one like out of your budget, but for some reason you're like, this is so beautiful, I have to take this one home, like I just can't stop thinking about it. Or even on live sales, like people always say that to me, like, you know what, I'll take that one because I can't stop thinking about it. I always feel that it's because it's giving out an energy that we're missing in our own body, almost like a vitamin or a mineral like deficiency in our own bodies, right? Like our bodies are vibrating all the time. And when we're out of alignment for any particular reason, like let's say we're sad about something, or we've gotten in an argument with someone, or, we're tired, our bodies kind of get out of alignment. And this particular crystal is vibrating at that same frequency that your body needs. So that's why you're kind of like connecting to that crystal. It's because we are already connected. It's a live thing. And we are also alive, right? So we're all kind of part of this world of living things, right? So I always say that, I always think that that's why we connect to plants or trees or anything that's like a mother nature thing. Even crystals comes from the earth, it's because they have something that our bodies are missing in some kind of way. So
Yes.
anyway, side note, right?
Magnify. I think magnify was the word I was looking for.
Okay, yeah.
Magnifies, you know, what we're missing, like you said, that energy. And everything vibrates. We vibrate, the crystals vibrate. So
Right.
yes, when like a vitamin or mineral, when we're lacking that vibration within us and you hold it close, it heals within what is missing. So I love the fact that you mentioned that. And I also wanted to go back and say, I'm so sorry to hear about your mother. I'm sorry that, you know, your mother passed away, but I do agree everything happens for a reason. And this trauma, these thoughts that you had brought you to this passion that you're at now, and you're able to help and heal so many others through it. So I'm grateful that you're here and that you wrote this incredible book. And I want to know, like, what made you want to write a book? Like, what did it just pop in your head? Like, I want to write this. How did that come about?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that, by the way. I know it's really difficult when you hear somebody's close loved one passes, you know, and you just want to make it better and somehow comfort them. I think thank you so much for that. It was very like it meant a lot to me for you to say that. What I was trying to say is that one of the reasons why I decided to write a book about crystals is because, you know, for a long time I was sad that I didn't find crystals before my mom passed. And I'm trying not to get emotional about it, but you know, I felt like if only I could have found crystals before she passed, you know, and it could have helped. Sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you for
But
being vulnerable and open, because we all have these moments, and you sharing is so powerful. Like, when you were talking about how you were driving and had those thoughts, I shouldn't be here. I've had those thoughts. I've had those feelings. I could relate. I understand. So thank you for
yeah,
opening up.
I'm like, I was not supposed to cry. But you know, I've been able to talk about it a lot more now as time has gone by. At first I felt like, why couldn't I find crystals before to help my mom, you know, and to help her heal, you know, because after you know, after finding crystals and going on this search and like shopping for a lot of crystals with my husband and just kind of falling in love with them, you know, one of the things that also happened was that I started being more open to other spiritual things. So you know, it's funny that in a sense, you know, crystals is like the gateway drug, but more like the gateway into spirituality, right? One of them. And one of the things that happened was that a friend referred me to a lady who she said does this thing called Reiki. And I remember thinking like, well, I'll try anything, right? So I went to go see this lady, and she happened to also be a medium. And she just said things that nobody else knew. So I knew for a fact that she was the real deal, right? She really connected me to my mom and brought a lot of healing to me. Like, for example, she said some things that no one knew. Like she said, your mom loves the pictures in your living room. And I had just received like my wedding pictures, and I had just put up a bunch of pictures in my living room of my wedding. So I remember thinking like, oh my God, like no one knows this, you know, it's just unless you live with me, right? And so I went ahead and I did Reiki with her as well. And I remember her, and have you done Reiki before? I'm sure, right? You do Reiki. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay. So you know how it is. And the first time that I ever had a session, which was with this lady named Donna, she touched my feet. And I remember feeling like, you know, when you are like in elementary school or junior high or high school even, and a friend tells you a joke, but the teacher is watching, so you can't laugh. So you are dying laughing inside, but you're like giggling in silence. that is the only way I can explain it. I had that feeling come about my body from my feet all the way up to my chest. Like I felt like I needed to laugh out loud, but I couldn't. And it was this amazing energy. Like I had never felt that before. And so I remember thinking, I need to find out what this is. Like, what is she doing? How did she do this? And so that year, that was 2015, right? The year after my mom had passed. And that year was just the year of me learning and searching for things. I went to an astrologer for the first time, and everything just made so much sense about my life, and why I do the things that I do. And this girl told me that I should go and try doing crystal healing, that I would do great at it. I could help other people and be able to heal myself. And I'm like, crystal healing, what exactly is that? Like there's another thing with crystals. And she's like, yeah, look it up. So I remember I searched up crystal healing and there were classes. I went from one class for crystal healing to signing up for an entire apprenticeship program for the year, because I just wanted to know everything there was out there to know about crystals and healing, and just teach me everything, right? Like that's how I felt that year. And that was 2016. So that year I became a Reiki master teacher. I did, sound healing. I became a sound healing master teacher. Like just basically everything that I could take, I took. And I just fell in love with it. I literally just left in 2017. I quit my job, my full-time job. I was a healthcare administrator. I quit my full-time, great paying job to pursue this career in crystals and selling crystals, because at that point my coworkers knew about it. I was selling crystals out of my trunk. Like everybody was asking me for advice about crystals. People were booking sessions with me, and I was doing this kind of like a side job with my full-time job, but it was a life-changing year. And so just kind of going back to your question, I always felt like if only I would have found crystals before my mom passed, but really, I really feel like she led me here, So, okay, I'm not going back to the crime, but yes, I really feel like she actually, it had to happen this way because she actually led me to find crystals and to really live out this life that I'm living now, which is just to really build this healing community and to just share my love for crystals. So about 2018, let's say, or right before the pandemic, I started manifesting that I, one day wanted to write a book. Like how amazing would it be if I could put it out there? I started looking into self-publishing and, maybe just doing it myself. A lot of people have told me that you can do that. So it was a thought in my mind. But in 2020, I was actually reached out by one publishing company, but it was like not a really great deal for me. It was just like pretty much like write the book for like, very little money. And then that's it. Like you get like no royalties, nothing. So I thought to myself, there has to be something better out there, and for first time authors, that's one of the things that you kind of have to learn on your own, like just like contracts and how that works. But I told myself, like, even though this is a contract that I'm getting and it's what I've been dreaming about, I kind of have to also think about my worth. And this is not like really honoring my worth. So I thought to myself, I'm going to pass it up. I'm going to pass this time, but something better is going to come. If I really believe in manifesting and what I preach, right, then I have to live by those words. So I pass that up. And weirdly enough, like I think a few months later, even I got another message from, just because of my Instagram, just because I've been putting it out there. I love crystals and I put out a lot of information on my page for people to learn. And there's a big community there. So just because of that, there was another publishing company that reached out, and I thought it was perfect, and it was a perfect opportunity with them. So I actually took that contract, and I was able to write the book that I was dreaming about forever. So yeah, so that's how that happened. It really was just part of like manifesting and putting it out there for myself. And there's not a lot of girls that look like me also, that write books about crystals. So it's been a journey and it's been exciting for me, even to represent, the Latina community as well, with this book. But my community is of all shapes, sizes, and all kinds of people.
Well, I'm excited that you wrote the book. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your joy, and for the healing of crystals, because it really is so powerful. Were you a writer, like in school? Did you like to write? Was it something in your head that you thought I'm someday going to write a book?
Yeah, I actually, it's funny because I always tell my kids this, like when I was a little girl, I used to always write storybooks. Like I used to, I'm sure a lot of kids do this, but I would fold up pieces of paper. I would staple the ends. I don't know if you did this as a kid, but I would staple the ends and pretend it was a book and write out whole books. I still have some stored away that my mom saved, books that I would just write on my own. And I always told myself I'm going to be a writer someday, So I think that was always something that I wanted to do, even if it was like a novel of some kind, I never imagined that it would be a book about crystals, like if somebody would have told me that as a kid, like you're going to write a book about crystals someday, I would have been like, oh my goodness, like that's
talking about, this is huge. Your books is in Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, like not, you have to hunt down to find your books. Your books,
thank you,
everywhere. Yes. And then you have the Oracle collection. Is that what it's called? Where it's cards, or there's like tarot cards?
Yeah, so actually that's something that I haven't even started announcing yet. So I'm excited that that I'm supposed to, but I
stopped you a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's good. I actually plan to say it here as well. When the book came out, one of the projects that I've been working on for a long time is an Oracle deck, because I do go on my Instagram live with my friend Terry every Sunday. We go live and we just do readings for people for free, right? Like we just do it for fun. I've never been paid for a reading. I just do like crystal messages. I only do crystal oracle cards. And I always give people messages based on the crystal card that I get for them. And so secretly, that was something that I wanted to do. Like someday I'll have an oracle deck, right? So right after the book came out, I got another message from my publisher and they said, hey, what do you think about creating an oracle deck to match the book? And I was just like, oh my God, you don't understand. This is my dream. And they were like, oh, we're happy to do it. And so it's a companion. It's like basically it'll be a pair to the book. And it's coming out in April of next year, 2024. So I'm super excited. And thank you for bringing it up, because I sometimes forget, but it's time to start saying it,
Yes, I'm excited because I love tarot cards and all that. I don't really sit down and do like readings, but I pull a card of the day, and it's my message of the day. Whatever I pull, I feel like that energy was pulled because I needed that message that day. And I also do that in my yoga classes. I put out cards and I let everyone pick a card for their message and put it at the.
Yeah. And most people, they like to do that. It's a good way to start the day, to pull a card for yourself and to know what the energy of the day is going to be like, or even to drive the energy of the day, So I think it's perfect. I think most people, they buy oracle decks for that reason, to just kind of read it for yourself, not necessarily to ever read it for anyone else. That was me, to be honest. Like I never imagined that I would be doing readings for other people. But my friend, she's really great at reading, but she just kind of lacked a little bit of the confidence to do it on her own. So she's like, if you could do it with me, then we could do it together. And I'm like, of course. And it's just been something that we do for fun. But yeah, I mean, that's how I started as well, just, doing them for myself. And I never thought I would do it in public. But a lot of things, life always leads you in certain directions. I think this was always my calling. I just had to find it. Sadly, I had to find it in a hard, difficult way. But sometimes we need a little bit of that, think about, just even the master that created Reiki, is just like he had to go through hardship in his life to find his way. Right. So I think we all kind of have to go through that and, find our way somehow. So,
So talking about Reiki, you do Reiki, sound healing, crystal healing. Do you combine all three?
yes, I do.
I love that.
I don't do sessions as often anymore. After the pandemic, things really changed. So during that time, I kind of took a little bit of time off, but anytime anyone says, can I have a session? I'm like, of course. And I still love doing it. And I do a combination of the three, and anything that really just comes to me at the time, you do.
You're guided.
Yeah, you're guided to just really do whatever, use all your different modalities, sometimes I even feel like
when I'm practicing or doing Reiki, sound healing, and crystals, I like placing crystals on people, and I do sound crystal bowls and the Reiki together also. But I always say it's not me doing it. I just open myself up as a vessel, and whatever comes through. I'm guided to move or go to certain areas of the body. So I agree that you learn these gifts, and as you're learning, you learn more and more. And why can't you combine all of them? know,
definitely.
I love that geode behind you too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's my biggest crystal that I own. So I'm like, it should be in the video.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, do you also, and this is something that doesn't really get discussed a lot, in healing with Reiki, but do you receive messages like for that person, like just intuitive messages for each person when you're doing Reiki?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And it's incredible.
It is. And sometimes I feel that it's meant to share, sometimes not then. It's not meant to share, not the right time or space. Then I also have this weird twitch whenever there's an area of the body that I need to stay on, because I'll scan through and sometimes my finger starts twitching and I'm like, oh, this is where I need to stay. And I had an incredible teacher, 85 years old, Sangeet. I absolutely adore her. And she had me practice on her. At first, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, what's this? All that I know is I'm twitching right here. And she's like, you're picking up on my arthritis. So I started learning that whenever I practice on someone, I'd feel that twitch. There's usually something going on in their body in that area. But she's the woman who trained me was medical intuit. As soon as I walked in, she scanned me and could pick up on things that I was like, oh, how did she know that? Like, that's something that just popped up today and she shouldn't know that. That's embarrassing. She picked up on things and would say, oh, honey, this will help that. Or, she was a medical intuitive. She could tell things the minute you were in her presence. So I'm not there at her level where I can just look at somebody and be like, that's what, but when I'm in that mental space and they're laying on my table and I open myself up as a vessel, my body goes to what needs to be worked on. And I always say, don't tell me what your perception is that you want fixed, because, energy goes where it needs to. And somebody might say, well, my shoulder hurts, but it stems from an injury they had on their toe they didn't even know about, so I don't want to get in my head what you want me to do. I just want to let the energy flow. So I always people love telling their story of like, oh, this is why I'm here. I'm like, You want
Yeah.
Reiki, right? Just let me do my thing. Don't even tell me.
Right, right. Oh, I love that. Yes. And sometimes it can even be a blocked chakra or something that you would never imagine is causing that particular pain or problem, right?
Right, right. So, Kathy, I want to thank you. I think we're about out of time here, but I want to thank you so much for being here. I'd love to have you on again. Are the oracle cards already out or not?
No,
Or
they're going to be out in April of
okay, so
2024.
maybe we can have you on again to check out the oracle
Yeah.
cards. I'd love to have you on again. I've had so much fun learning about your journey and hearing about your trauma. I'm so sorry, but thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and open. And I look forward to seeing you again. I think we're meeting next week.
I am so excited. You have no idea. I've already told my husband he's on kid duty. I'm coming to your event next Sunday. So yes, we're going to meet in person.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I love and adore you and all that you do. Thank you. Thank you for being you, and thank you for joining us and sharing yourself with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to meeting you in person.
Hey.
Okay. Thank you.
So, tune in again next week for another brand new episode of Fully Chit. How was that, Chris?